Imagine the world outside your front door has vanished. The noise of the city, the demands of your boss, the exhausting performance of being social. It is all gone. You are in your sanctuary. The air is still. The lighting is exactly how you like it. Outside, there is chaos. There is judgment. There is the unpredictable friction of other human beings. But here you are the queen of a silent kingdom. For some, this is not just a quiet Friday night. It is a lifestyle, a necessity, a compulsion. You feel a strange sense of relief when a plan is canceled. A hit of dopamine so sharp it is almost addictive. But as the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months, a chilling question begins to grow in the back of your mind. Are you staying inside because you love your home? Or are you staying inside because you have become afraid of the version of yourself that exists outside of it? Why does the human mind, an organ evolved over millennia for social cooperation, tribal survival, and communal bonding, suddenly decide that the greatest threat to its well-being is other people? We are biologically hardwired to seek the gaze of the other, yet millions are now choosing the sterile safety of four walls over the vitality of the world outside. In our modern era, staying in has been elegantly rebranded. We call it nesting, introverting, or a mental health day. But in the shadows of dark psychology, this retreat is often something far more clinical and far more permanent. It is a phenomenon where the walls of your home stop acting as a shelter and begin functioning as a psychological barricade, a physical manifestation of a mind in retreat. Is it a choice or is it a symptom? We have to ask the chilling question. Why does the brain begin to perceive the comfort of a sofa as more rewarding than the thrill of a human connection? To find the answer, we must peel back the layers of the social brain hypothesis and look at the terrifying moment the world becomes a no-fly zone for the psyche. We are looking at why some minds find safety only in total isolation, and the precise moment a sanctuary transforms into a cell. The neurobiology of the sanctuary. To understand the true weight of the urge to retreat, we have to look deep into the amygdala, the brain's ancient almond-shaped alarm system. For the average person, a trip to a crowded mall or a loud party is a minor sensory challenge. For those with a high arousal nervous system, it is a perceived physical assault. In the wild, the amygdala triggers the fight or flight response to predators. In the modern world, that predator is the unpredictable gaze of a stranger or the exhausting friction of small talk. When you cross your threshold and bolt the door, your amygdala finally stands down. This cessation of hypervigilance triggers the release of oxytocin. While often called the cuddle hormone, oxytocin is actually a chemical signal of safety and territorial belonging. It is the brain's way of saying you are no longer prey. But there is a dark side to this chemical piece. A landmark 1990 study by psychologist Jerome Kagan discovered that roughly 20% of infants are born with a high reactive temperament. Their brains are biologically wired to perceive novelty as a threat. For these individuals, the home is not just a place to sleep. It is a medical necessity to prevent a full-scale nervous system meltdown. The danger lies in neuroplasticity. The more you feed the amygdala's demand for safety, the more sensitive it becomes. This is a psychological shrinking of the map. If you retreat today because the world is too loud, your brain may decide tomorrow that even your living room is too exposed, eventually trapping you in the smallest corner of your own life. The case of the modern hermit. In the shadow-drenched alleys of Tokyo, there is a word that carries the weight of a silent epidemic: Hikikomori. It translates to pulling inward, but it describes a total psychological collapse. These are individuals, often young men, who vanish from society, withdrawing into their bedrooms for years or even decades. What began as a Japanese cultural anomaly has spread into a global psychological contagion, moving through the veins of our hyper-connected yet deeply lonely modern world. Consider the chilling case of Sato, a pseudonym for a man who spent 11 years within the four walls of a single apartment. Sato was not a monster or a hater of humanity. He was a victim of social defeat stress. In the animal kingdom, when a creature loses a fight for dominance, it retreats to a dark burrow to lick its wounds and avoid further injury. For Sato, the fight was the relentless friction of the job market, the brutal judgment of the dating scene, and the crushing weight of societal expectations. The moment he locked his door for the last time, he felt a profound sense of relief, a chemical quiet that felt like salvation. But that relief was a trap. Inside that silence, his prefrontal cortex, the brain's command center for complex social behavior and decision-making, began to weaken. Without the exercise of real-world interaction, The neural pathways for empathy and confidence withered. By staying home to save his mind, Sato was inadvertently starving it. He became a ghost in the machine of a bustling city, a living testament to the dark truth that when your comfort zone stops growing, it starts becoming a tomb. The dark allure of digital solitude. We cannot talk about the psychology of staying home without talking about the digital mirror. In the past, staying home meant true isolation. You were alone with your thoughts, which could be terrifying. Today, we have the parasocial safety net. You can stay in your pajamas, avoid all physical eye contact, and yet feel social by scrolling through feeds or watching creators. This is a high-level psychological trap. Your brain receives the dopamine hits of social interaction without any of the cognitive load required for real-life empathy or body language interpretation. We are training our brains to prefer the filtered other over the real other. This creates a feedback loop of avoidance learning. Every time you choose your phone and your couch over a dinner with friends, you are reinforcing a neural pathway that says, the world is difficult, but the screen is easy. You are not just staying home because you like your house. You are staying home because you have lost this social muscle required to handle a world that does not have an unfollow button. The Hermit Inside Us All. You might be listening to this and thinking, I am not a Hikikomori. I just like my weekends quiet. But look closer. Have you ever felt that sudden, irrational flash of anger when your phone rings? Have you ever looked out your window at people walking by and felt a strange sense of superiority, mixed with a deep, aching loneliness? The stay-at-home urge is often a mask for anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from things that should be rewarding. We tell ourselves we are recharging, but often we are just hiding. We are using our homes as a shield against the vulnerability of being seen. Because if you are not seen, you cannot be judged. If you are not seen, you cannot fail. The dark truth is that the more comfortable your home becomes, the more the outside world begins to look like a hostile wasteland. We are the first generation in history that can survive without ever leaving our front doors. And that might be the most dangerous psychological experiment ever conducted. But there is an even darker layer to this isolation. Sometimes the mind does not just want to stay home. Sometimes the mind begins to create people to fill the silence. When the human brain is deprived of real connection, it starts to malfunction in ways that look like a horror movie. It begins to hallucinate. It begins to talk to shadows. It begins to develop what psychologists call the third man factor. If you think staying home is a choice for your mental health, you need to understand what happens when that choice is taken away, and the mind is forced into a silence it cannot escape. And that is why you need to watch the next video.